Has your so ever revealed something about themselves or their life that made you call it quits right then and there? If so, what was it? Told me she stabbed her sister's boyfriend. She also thought it would be great to add the detail that it was lodged in there deep enough to stand on its own. I know it's bad form, but I think a breakup through text might have been appropriate for that one. While babysitting, I once held the baby over a balcony for a few seconds just to feel a rush. Dated this guy for about 6 months or so. Started to feel the relationship break apart. Tried to talk to him about it and suggested we part ways. Then he told me that he would kill himself if we ever broke up. Deadpan serious. And with his history of depression, I believed him. So over a long period of oh frick now what and feeling trapped in the relationship, I eventually just told him it wasn't working and that I wouldn't be responsible for his decisions afterwards. Don't pull that crap on someone, ever. I had been dating this really sweet, handsome young man for a few months. He still lived at home with his mother while he was finishing up college and they seemed to be extremely close, almost to a degree that was a little uncomfortable. Everything between us was going really well until one day I was driving him home from a rehearsal and I told him that I wasn't going to be able to spend Saturday night with him like usual because I was going to visit my father for Father's Day. He became very quiet for the rest of the ride to his place, and when we got there he went straight into his room and closed the door. Now his mother was used to getting a full report on his day after getting home, and I guess the absence of that part of their routine threw her into a fit. She started screaming at me about how I must have been cheating on him because he would never act that way otherwise. After trying to explain my side of things, she kept screaming at me, and so I said I don't have to deal with this. I'm leaving. As I tried to walk out, she locked the door and kept pulling me away from it, saying no, you can't leave US. If you stay we can make this all better. I finally got outside where she followed me screaming the same crazy crap. Got in my car. I had to gently push her because she was still holding on to me while I was trying to close my door, and drove home. I called the guy a few days later to talk about what happened and he insisted that it was my fault. She got upset. Done. Never spoke to him again. He leaned down, kissed my stomach, and said soon there could be a little baby in there. It was the second date and the first time we got physically intimate. Guy I dated told me he was a demigod, that Zeus had come down and had physical relationship with his mom in the form of her Sancho. He would throw energy balls at buildings, with sound effects and all. Said if I ever broke up with him, things would get stabby. Did everything I could to get him to break up with me. It eventually worked when I told him I had no intention of ever marrying him. Zeus, energy balls, with sound effects, stabby, my sides I'm sorry. That I was dropping her off for dinner with her friends, at a swingers club. I was not invited. Well, that's just rude is what that is. More a revelation of his personality than a confession. But I had a pregnancy scare years ago and my ex immediately cut off all forms of contact. As soon as he found out that it was indeed just a scare, he resumed contact as though nothing had happened, including an attempt at tech. Nope. That dude sucks as a person, but the idea of someone almost getting someone pregnant and then reinitiating through tech is just hilarious to me. Whoa, that was a close one. Better try this long distance. Dated someone for 6 months, then found out her best guy friend was really a married man she'd been sleeping with for the last 8 years. The worst part was that she knew his entire family, wife and 2 teenage daughters. I noped the frick out right there and then. I've been asked how I found out, so here you go. She asked me to install some software on her laptop, gave me her password. She'd actually given me her password before, but I didn't snoop because I wanted to trust her. Anyhow, I was bored curious, so I looked through some pictures and saw some pretty incriminating crap. By then I knew she wasn't who she was trying to be, so I also searched her email and found a bunch of nasty emails between them. My so of 6+ years and I had just moved into a new place with my best friend, and she was not happy with the amount of time I spent with my friend, resulting in a few fights. He had been in a pretty bad motorcycle accident a few months prior, and was still working on recovering from a broken femur. We were arguing about my division of time and she says, "I wish your friend had died in his accident." Our relationship had been on a downward spiral for a while prior to this, but it was limping along because we were both still trying to make things better. This was the straw that shattered the camel's back with extreme prejudice. Dang, that's frickin' cold. I was in the military and was dating this girl. She asked if I had a Purple Heart. I said no. She told me to get my butt back to Afghanistan and get one so our kids can have free college. That was about 3 weeks into it. So, a Purple Heart, quick Google. The Purple Heart is a United States military decoration awarded in the name of the president to those wounded or killed while serving. Whoa, you should have said you enlist and get one. I'll look after the kids while you're gone. At dinner on one of our dates, he explained to me that he was the human form of the sloth demon, deadly sin, and that he could see into my soul. I was supposedly an angel he had seen before. Also mentioned he had a magic dong. Dated a girl for 2 years, and on Christmas Eve she tells me she fricked my best friend, at the time, on multiple occasions during our relationship, including my birthday both times, and Christmas Eve, that same day. Obviously, I haven't talked to either of them since. I hate people. I had a girl tell me that her father constantly made physical advances toward her. She never let him, but to seek revenge on him, she willingly slept with his brother, her uncle. Never again. That's kind of sad. Must have had a really crap childhood. I cheated on you 9 months ago, with 3 other guys. My ex-wife, I don't exactly think I'm straight. Me. Okay, so where does that leave us? Turns out she had been having an affair with an old co-worker. Female obviously, and that was pretty much that. How could I know she was a lesbian? She didn't know she was a lesbian. This is the reverse, but girls will always nope the frick out after telling them I have a genetic disorder that is shortening my lifespan. He killed my kitten while I was at school because it peed in the hall. For months after, he told me he gave it away. Then one night, he got very drunk and told me giving away my cat without my consent would be enough for me to dump a person. I dated a guy for about a week when he told me about his past. When he was 15, he and his uncle stole a car, drove it to a field, and then set it on fire. The next day, afraid of getting caught, he ran away to another state. A few years later he got arrested for having physical relationship with a 12-year-old that he swore was 17. He'd recently gotten out of jail, and the reason he wore a fanny pack and really baggy jeans even in the middle of summer was because he had an electronic tracking anklet. Too many bad decisions. I really didn't want to get wrapped up in another. He named our children on our second date and apparently knew my mom from his stays in the mental hospital she works in. My friend and this guy were dating in high school for a few months until she went to a family reunion and he was there. Distant cousins, but they felt so weird they ended it right then. I once had a girlfriend tell me, as a 28-year-old, that she had never had a boyfriend that she hadn't cheated on. For some reason, I didn't bounce, and instead married her a year later. Now see if you can guess how it turned out. Nice story when neither person is insane or stupid or horrible. She told me that she would never, even if we married, cut ties with her ex, who had previously gone to jail for abusing her. She played with her dog really rough. Fine, whatever, she wasn't hurting him. When the dog was bad, however, to punish it she had to be more rough than playing with it, or else it would think she was playing with him. So yeah, she would punch the frick out of her dog to punish him and choke it. I found out her brother would whip him with switches. I about vomited. I cried, stole her dog, left her and called the authorities. Yes, she was drunk off her butt, and had just puked all over my apartment. In fact, after I had cleaned her up in the shower and put her in my bed, she looks at me in a moment of clarity and says, "You're such a nice guy. I've been lying to you for so long. I do every day." Well, when she told me she was gay I knew it was over. Still hurts. I dated a guy for 3 years and out of nowhere he confesses he had a sister complex and that he was a zoophile, and pleaded me to partake in that lifestyle with his dog. I left so quickly. Her dad was in the army. We went to the mall. We walked past her Middle Eastern family, and she starts hissing at them. I'm having trouble picturing what that would look or sound like. Was seeing a girl for about a week and we ended up going to her club, which is totally not my idea of a fun time, but whatever. She got kinda drunk. The kind of drunk where you're lucid enough to make sense but have no real filter. She went to the bathroom and when she came back she started making out with me. Turns out she went to the bathroom to throw up. So after she kinda sorta threw up in my mouth, I was obviously disgusted and stopped the session to ask if she had just puked. She responded with a yeah. So, look at me. You're lucky to even speak to me. So I never spoke to her again. Yuck. She once told me that in the past she was really into the underworld. She was in a jacuzzi with a group of Russian mobsters and they started a bidding war to get her to get physically intimate with one of them. She accepted 5,000 euros. That he cheated on all of his girlfriends and that they were all crazy. Lol. At least he was upfront and saved you the time. Telling me she's still involved with the guy she has a kid with right after we finish hooking up. I like her, but I can only deal with so much. Also there was a girl who had a really bad snore and I'm a really light sleeper, so after one night it was like, well, that'll never work. Well, those are two reasons with very different weights in the eyes of most people. The first night we hung out we met in a bar, and I ended up staying with her there after my ride said he wanted to leave, so she brought me back to my house. Naturally, we ended up getting physically intimate. It was pretty normal, straightforward, first time lovemaking, until the end. Right after she came she started crying and hugged me really tight and told me to tell her I love her. She insisted over and over that I tell her, and remember we met just like 5 hours before. Then she got pee off. Started yelling and telling me how many great things she has going for her in life and if it just gave her AIDS she was gonna frick my life up financially. That was a nope. I hope you got tested soon after that, my friend. That's some projection blaming right there. It wasn't him who told me, but when I was 16, my 19-year-old boyfriend's little sister pulled me aside and revealed that he had violated her regularly throughout her childhood. Dated a girl shortly in college and there were red flags everywhere. Innocent me didn't pay any attention though. We had fooled around once but never had intercourse. Just some foreplay. She tells me a couple weeks later she thinks she's pregnant. After I tell her that isn't possible since we never had intercourse, she tells me she's like the Virgin Mary and didn't need insemination to get pregnant. I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. I noped the frick out of there. Later I found out she was the craziest person I have ever met my entire life. She admitted to me, after going through a miscarriage with her and the depression that followed, that she was rarely taking her birth control pill the entire time. After this, she refused to swap to an alternative method and would actively refuse me wearing condoms. Being as I was leaving for university in a few months after that, I encouraged her to find her own place and job, then broke things off. After 2 weeks of dating, he told me he had a surprise. I was then presented with keys and a signed lease for an apartment, for both of us, in a city 30 miles away, complete with a folder full of floor plans and complex amenities. Even better, he had talked to a friend of his who agreed to give me what at any other time would have been my dream job. He also stopped by the local elementary school and picked up a registration packet for my son, who he had never met. Just to clarify, I was not homeless or jobless. In fact, not only did I have my own place, I made more than he did. The whole thing was so bizarre and out of the blue that I didn't know how to respond, other than to dance my merry butt into the sunset. I dated a guy in high school my senior year who admitted to me that he had violated his little sister. Peace out, mother sucker. Enjoy your time in the slammer with my compliments. He didn't reveal it but I saw it. I had gotten home early from school that day and was curious where he was. Eventually I looked in the backyard and there he was holding my dear 14-year-old cat by the tail and holding his dong at the same time. Now I didn't have many friends all throughout most of school, so this cat meant the absolute world to me. So obviously I flipped one at him, told him to get the frick out and then proceeded to bee him out on the phone for a good long while. Frick him and frick animal abuse. I just hope he didn't do anything else to my little furry buddy. What the frick? He was divorced, with a 3-year-old daughter. The daughter lived with the ex. I had assumed they had joint custody because one of the rooms in his apartment was decorated for a little girl. We had been dating less than a week when he asked if I could be ready to go in a hurry if he decided to kidnap his daughter. In this case, I was the so with an apparent character flaw. I had been seeing a gal for a few months and things were going well. One night we decided to bake some bread. Now, you should know that I have inherited my dad's sense of humor, so I have been telling dad jokes for my whole life. This night was no different. Through the entire baking process I was making bread baking puns. I thought they were great, but she did not. The next morning she broke it off. TLDR, too many bad bread puns cost me a relationship. She was mean to my dog. Good choice. B before hose. When he was flippant about not paying a bill and said something to the effect of he didn't care if it went to collections. Problem is he made over 6 figures and the bill in question was stupid small. He could totally afford it. And it wasn't I'm not paying that because the company dicked me over, he just didn't care. I knew he had a foreclosure before we met, but I just chalked it up to the economy and his divorce. Apparently not, but he'd pee away tons of money on stupid crap like paintball. Hobbies are cool, but when you're throwing all your money at them and going into collections for other stuff, heck no. So it turns out being completely financially irresponsible in your 40s is a huge turn off. Awesome. I've still got 10 years to get my crap together. My fiancé wasn't divorced. He was still living with his wife. You have been visited by the distinguished doggo of delicious delicacies. Comment tasty supper, pupper and be blessed with delectable dishes for the next decade. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.